Well, howdly hodly there, YouTube. Welcome to my comics review for what would have been the month of December. December's was a little strange because, December can be a busy month for various reasons. There's holidays over Christmas, at least there is for me now, with my new job as compared to my old job where there was very little. But even on holidays, it can be busy, right? Plus, we had a furnace breakdown during the time. Right on Christmas Eve morning, our furnace broke down. It was mayhem. Plus, there's all the Christmas nonsense, and all the money you're spending on Christmas presents, which is less of a factor for me because I just buy shit no matter what. I'm terrible that way. But anyways, because it was so busy, I didn't get down to the comic book store for my regular monthly pickup of my new issues. So the only comics I have this month are all back issues that I had ordered on eBay and whatnot. So there's only 5 today. The first 3 are Transformers, so let's get into them. And these last 3 issues here signify the full completion of my Transformers Marvel 1980s run. There's 80 issues in that series, and a number of them, of course, I had from when I was a kid collecting them at the time, but I missed some along the way, and I've had to go back, look through the back issues at my local comic store, order some online, to eventually, over the years, piece it all together. Some of them are in really good shape. The rest of them are varying from almost good shape to down to one of these I had to buy in a pretty ratty copy of the very last issue, number 80, because it was so expensive that, I had to buy a cheap one that was in bad shape just to get it, sort of thing, right? So I have a very quite a plethora of different quality comics within that run, but I'm of the mind I'm not going to sell these ever. These are for me to read and have and look through every so often. I don't care what shape they're in, really, so long as they can be read and I have them, right? So that's kind of my mindset. I'm not, oh, it must be in mint condition, I'm gonna hang it on my wall in the fucking packaging for 30 years and then try and sell it. That's not what I do. I buy stuff because I like it and I want to use it. So that being said, issue 74 was one of the 3 that I needed. It sees the Autobots led by Optimus Prime and the Decepticons led by Scorponok kind of mostly team up together as Unicron is coming. and of course he's a huge threat. Only the Autobots and Decepticons working together will be even able to have a remote chance of repelling a planet-sized Transformer that doesn't give a shit about anything, right? And the issue actually starts off with kind of a history of Unicron, having destroyed the universe, went into a slumber, but he left little pockets of micro life around, and that life grew. Cybertron was created, which is actually another robot in itself named Primus. And the Transformers were created by Primus as a means to protect the planet Cybertron. So it's a little backstory. That's usually the main story, but you'll see in the movies they have the 13 Primes, and there's some other mythology that they've added over the years and that sort of thing. But this is kind of the original kind of thing with Primus and Unicron being these opposing planet-sized Transformer forces, right? So Optimus and Scorponok team up. The Autobots are pretty much all on board, but there are some pockets of Decepticons that are like, this is weird, I don't like working with these guys, let's just hang back and do whatever. At the same time, Unicron has this sect of robots led by a human who are brainwashed into like forming a Unicron cult, and that's who the Transformers are busy fighting off on Cybertron at the time, is this cult of Unicron warriors. So we see them fighting them, and then the very last thing we see on the last page is like the surface of Cybertron with these fights going on, and then Unicron like looming over the top of it saying, "What's up, right? You're about to get devoured." The next one I needed was issue 79. So this skips ahead like 5 issues. It looks like Unicron's been dealt with to a certain degree. So in this one, there's a bunch of stuff going on. It's on the cover, you'll see Spike, the last Autobot, question mark. So he kind of is wandering the tundra, saying, oh my god, am I the last Autobot, whatever. And we see the wreckage of this ship that kind of looks like the Ark in the snow. And we saw a picture of this Ark-like ship in issue 74 that I just mentioned, with Grimlock and Slag and a couple others on it, talking about reactivating some Transformers that are like in stasis. And that's all we really saw of them. So this ship in the snow looks like that ship had crashed. So Spike's wandering around wondering, like, am I the last Autobot? When all of a sudden Galvatron bursts from this wreckage and then starts going on a rampage. And we see Spike approach this hangar facility or whatever, and Fortress Maximus's body is in it, and he combines with 40 Max and sets about chasing down Galvatron and getting in a fight with him. At the same time, we have Grimlock and those other Autobots. It looks like he has awakened some of the other Autobots. Prowl has joined the fray, a couple of others. They are heading towards the planet Clo, which is where the Decepticons are right now, led by Bludgeon. And they are on this alien planet, doing some damage, looking for Autobots, that sort of thing. So Grimlock and his forces are in the ship heading to that planet. Well, on Earth, Fortress Maximus and Galvatron are having this kind of knockdown, drag-out fight sort of thing. Then, in the last issue, number 80, it's so tattered. Oh, it's so tattered. But I got it. I got the last issue. Problem with these late issues is that they were low run, right? Because the series was losing interest. So there's only so many out there compared to the earlier issues, right? So they're hard to find. But in this one, it's basically at the end of 79. Sorry, I forgot. Humans, Circuit Breaker and this guy named Rapture, led by a couple of the headmasters, were on Cybertron trying to find the last Autobot. And they found this Autobot within the surface, or within the bowels of Cybertron. And it's just this big, tall robot transformer looking dude. So that's kind of all we see there. Now in this issue, the fight on Clo has begun. Bludgeon and his forces are there, scoping out the planet, eliminating whatever resistance they find. When Grimlock and all of his guys land on the planet and take the fight to them, the fight's not going well for the Autobots. When all of a sudden another ship arrives and Optimus Prime hops off, and Bludgeon's like, "I thought you were dead," and Optimus is like, "Well, that's the funny thing about being the last Autobot. You're not really the last." I don't know, it's something. And so he ends up fighting Bludgeon, and along the way explaining when this last Autobot was found within the bowels of Primus, what its function was, and how Optimus used the wisdom and the power of this robot to re-engage and fight these Decepticons in the end. And in the end, at the very end of the series, so basically it doesn't end like no one side is wiped out. The Autobots send the Decepticons running from the planet Clo with their tails between their legs, and but the Autobots are like, "Well, Optimus, what do we do now? We can't even go anywhere. Like, Cybertron's been destroyed, and are we gonna stay here on this alien planet?" And Optimus is like, "That's where you're wrong. That last Autobot that was within the bowels of Primus actually served another purpose, and this robot instigated some sort of like planet regeneration protocol. So Cybertron is basically healing itself and regenerating. So Cybertron is back, brand spanking new and shiny. The Autobots can head home, and the Decepticons have run off to God knows where. So for now, at least, all is well and good. We'll see what happens in Generation 2. I've already read all Generation 2, so actually I should reread Generation 2, because I forget if it picks up after this and continues the storyline, or if it's something brand new. Maybe I'll do that. The other two issues were from the G.I. Joe series from the 1980s, the Marvel series, and this one I'm not even close to completing the series. I mean, I've made a good dent in it, but it went for much longer. I think maybe 160, 170, 180 issues around there, and they're even harder to find later in the run than some of the Transformers ones were. So it may never happen. It may take a long time. Probably cost me a bit of money, but you pick away at it, right? Just like anything, pick away at it. Take your time. These two issues are back to back, 132 and 133, and they focus on it. The issue begins with Wild Bill flying a team of Joes in one of their big transport cargo planes to Cobra Island in the middle of the night. It's Roadblock Duke, Snake Eyes, Lady J, Stalker I think is in there, and some others. And along with them is this stealth plane that is doing some flybys of the island to get reconnaissance and some intel and stuff. But ultimately, Wild Bill drops all the Joes in by parachute, and they begin a march on the Cobra headquarters on Cobra Island. Little do they realize, at least as far as we know, that basically Cobra Command has abandoned the island, and Firefly has taken it over with his team of brainwashed red ninjas. And I think you may remember this from some of the newer issues. They had a similar theme, or else it was that issue that had a bunch of backstories from older issues, and it's just this being repeated. But I can't remember. But this may sound familiar. We have talked about this before. So the Joe team hits the ground. They start marching towards the headquarters, but they run into this resistance of these, like, they're robot sentries, and they look like, you know, Terminator units without Arnie's flesh on them, right? With the red eye and that silver gleaming robot monstrosity that's so terrifying and so amazing. So they have to dispatch these guys along the way and do it quietly so they don't get found out. But ultimately they do get found out, and there's some resistance sent out at them in the form of some Cobra tanks and stuff like that, but nothing they can't handle, nothing they can't fight off. That's the way that issue ends. And then as we move into 133, they continue their march on the facility, and Snake Eyes goes ahead and climbs the wall of the headquarters and begins an infiltration by himself, because he is that fantastic ninja, right? Firefly and his red ninjas hole up inside of the command center and under the floor and stuff like that, and they're laying an ambush for Snake Eyes, right? But he's not fooled. He gets in there. He starts laying waste to everybody, and so they start sending everything they can at him, right? So a big firefight ensues. The Joe's outside, still marching on the headquarters here, and so they're like, okay, it's go time. So they start marching in earnest, and then more reinforcements come out towards them. So it's this big battle unfolding both outside and inside of the command center. And in the end, we see Firefly form a almost like a human pyramid of ninjas that they call the Scorpion Strike or something like that, right? It looks like a scorpion tail, right? And Firefly's like, he's on top of it, and he's like, you should know from your Arashikage family clan history that this form is unbeatable, right? And we just see Snake Eyes kind of standing there looking at this kind of move they're gonna pull, and of course he's gonna beat it. But that's the way the issue ends. We don't know for sure if he does or not. So we'll have to see if I need number 134 or not, or if I already have it. And hey, if it comes up on the next batch of comics, we will see soon enough if Snake Eyes is able to fend off Firefly and his Scorpion Strike, or if he'll finally meet his maker. Let's be honest, Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes is, if he ever gets destroyed, it's gonna be by somebody with a lot more competence than Firefly.